Looking from a window above, it's like a story of love. Can you hear me?
Hi there. We're Apollo5, a vocal ensemble based in London, and we were supposed to be performing tonight a concert in Newbury with our friends in the Three Rivers Community Choir. This is a relationship we've had for a few years, and we've worked together, performing together and doing some workshops and generally having fun singing together. And we're really sorry we can't be with you tonight. Kindly, your choir director, Anne Wright, has asked you to come up with some questions that you'd like to ask Apollo5. And so we're going to answer them for you tonight.
Thank you. How do the members of Apollo5 memorise so much music? Well, that's a really, really good question because obviously memorising music is a really large part of what we do, being in this kind of ensemble. And I think it's something that actually, the more you do, it's a skill that you get used to doing and you get better at. So just the more you do it, it really becomes a lot easier. I think all of us, like with any kind of learning, memorise in slightly different ways. So for me, I tend to be a combination of learning visually and then from listening. So I will look at the score and look at a few bars at a time, break it down into small chunks, sing it through, memorise that few bars, and then listen and sing along. And I'll either sing along to a track that we've made previously, or if we haven't got one of those, then I will record myself singing just into my phone or something, my part, and I'll sing along with myself. I do that quite a lot, and then when I've memorised the whole piece, I'll just repeat several times, and I often do that in the car when I'm driving along. I'll sing along to myself, and that's a really useful way. I know that some of the others learn a little bit more visually, so they will literally sort of take photographic images in their minds of the pages of the music, which I think is really impressive. I can't do that, but that would be a really useful skill because they can remember, see the little intricate things on the page. So that would be a really useful thing too. But I think to a greater or lesser extent, we all memorise partly visually and partly from listening, and then it's just a case of repetition.
Thank you. What are your earliest musical influences? A good question. I'd say my parents' musical choices were a big influence for me growing up. Anything from Mahler to James Taylor and trad jazz. Also, I'd say watching lots of movies when I was young. I absolutely loved Doris Day. The emotion that she could convey with her voice has been a big influence on how I sing jazz.
Ooh, thank you. What musical instruments do the members of Apollo5 play? Good question. I play the trombone, Claire plays the viola, Greg plays the oboe, which is obviously good for breath support, Penny plays the drums, which are good for the rhythm, and Ollie plays a mean Elton John on the piano. But I guess, if you think about it, when we all come together to sing in Apollo5, our five voices are trying to create one perfectly balanced musical instrument.
Thank you. What is your go-to song or piece of music when you want to enjoy yourself? Well, another good question in Three Rivers Choir. Now, I think for me, with regards to Apollo5, I think my favourite song to sing with Apollo5 is Queen's Don't Stop Me Now. Great bass line, and also we have a bit of choreography in there as well. Always good fun. In terms of my general listening day to day, that changes every couple of days really, but at the moment I'm really enjoying Earth, Wind and Fire, their greatest hits, when I make my morning coffee. I'm using Spotify's Discover Weekly, which gives you some good new music options that can change up your musical tastes every few days for me. Nice to chat. Bye bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Tips for avoiding going flat. This can be tricky. A few things. Before we start to sing, we need to think about how we're supporting the sound. It's very important. I'd say one thing, whilst we're singing a phrase, if we're going up to a high note, perhaps rather than thinking about going up to the high note, perhaps think about coming down onto it. That can help. I often try and hear the note in my head. That's always a very good thing to think about, so that when you hit that note, you've already got that sound ringing around. But yeah, support is so important. Breathing, keeping that breath flow going.
Singing a cappella. Advice for choir directors on how to support parts who have accompanying lines. Another great question here. So this is about balance and knowing where your part sits in the texture at all times. It's sometimes useful to do a little exercise with this. When you're standing, step forward if you have an important part, and then step back if you're coming back into the texture. It's about knowing when to bring out your part and when to just support other parts in terms of volume and making sure that your vowels are all unified.
All I needed was the love you gave. All I needed for another day. And all I